Now that you're done with step 2B, which was to go through the chapter and find all the bold and italicized words and type them into your outline, now we're ready to move on to step C, which is listed here, which is to go through the chapter and look for any diagrams or pictures, tables, figures, and put the titles of those into your outline. So I'm going to pull up the outline that I've already done that includes these things. So you'll see I decided to use a lime green color to put all the titles in for the figures and tables. But let's go through the chapter and look at the first few so you get the gist of how to do this step, and then I'll have you pause the video and put all of the figures and tables in that you can find. So if you start on page 253 and you flip over, you'll see the first table that shows up is on page 254, and it's figure 11.1, the audience-centered model of the public speaking process. So all I'm doing here is in my outline, I'm finding where it goes. So I can see by looking at the chapter, it's right next to the heading, Building Your Confidence. So I'm just going to stick the title for the model right underneath that. From here on out, if you take a look at my outline, anything that shows up in lime green is some type of a box, a figure, or a table that's showing up in the text. Right? So let's take a look at the next one in the chapter after figure 11.1. The next box that I can find shows up on page 257, and it's a recap box. So I'm going to scroll down on my outline, and you can see I put it right here because it shows up right next to the purple heading, Explore Additional Resources. So I'm going to put it right in there because that's where it fit in the chapter. So I'd like you to pause the video here and go through and put in all of the titles for the tables, the figures, and any pictures that you can find. All right, now that you've finished step 2C, now we're ready to move on to 2D. This is where you go back and you fill in any of the definitions for the bold and italicized words that you listed in your outline in step 2B. Now we're going to go in and put the definitions. Also, we're going to look for any key words in the margins and put those into the outline. Let's go through, starting on page 253, the first page of the chapter, and start filling in the definitions and looking for key words in the margins. So I'm going to pull up the outline I've already done ahead of time to fill some of these things in so you can see what it looks like. So here was the first set of bold words that we found. What I did was I went into the chapter and I found the definition that's listed right near those bolded words on page 253, and I typed in the definition. Then I went to the next set of bold words, which was this one, and I found the definition. I typed that in. When I got to this one, public speaking anxiety, I don't know if you see this or you have a different idea about this, but I couldn't find a definition for public speaking anxiety right in the paragraph. But what I did notice is it's up in the margin, right above the public speaking, audience-centered public speaking model. So what I want to do is just basically copy that definition out of the margin. So I'm going to type that in here. All right, now I'm not going to type the whole thing in right now just for the sake of time, but you can type in the rest of that definition that's listed there about anxiety about speaking in public that is manifested in psychological symptoms such as rapid heartbeat, butterflies in the stomach, shaking knees and hands, quivering voice, and increased perspiration. So you can type all that in right here, but like I said, for the sake of time, I'm not going to type that in right now. Right, then as I scroll down a little bit more in the outline, I see that the next bold thing is the illusion of transparency, so I'm going to find the definition and type that in. All right, so I'd like you to pause the video and go through and find all the definitions for the bold and italicized words you already put in your outline, but also looking for keywords in the margins of the chapter. And most likely you're going to find at least what I found, is most of the words that are in the margin are the key words that we already have in bold. They're pulling them out and putting them in the margin to make them stand out and to have the associated definition. So, but pause the video and go through and complete that step of the reading process with putting the definitions in. All right, now that you've completed step 2D, you are done with step 2. Now it's time to go to step 3 and to look at the review section of the chapter. So we're going to flip back there. And you will find this on page 275. On page 275, you will see an overview, a review of the chapter. So this is another way for your brain to be able to get the flow of the chapter before you go in and you read the details of it. So just read through page 275. Go ahead and pause the video and take a look at just page 275. All right, now the next step is also for step 3. If you would like, you can look through some of the other things, just reading through it in the review section of the book. On page 270, looks like 76, yes, 276, you'll see the study guide where you've got key terms, principal points, applying your skill and assessing your skill. What I would recommend is just reading over that, not necessarily taking any notes, but this is just another way for your brain to preview what's going to happen whenever you read the details of the chapter. All right, now we're moving on to step 4, which is you are reading the chapter. So as you're reading the chapter, you can be taking notes and typing them right into your outline, the things that stand out to you that you want to remember and use as a for your study guide when you're studying for the quiz or for the final exam at the end of the year. So that would be step 4. So now's the time you read the chapter. Right? So then after you've read the chapter, we're just going to move on to step 5. I'm not going to ask you to pause the video and go read the chapter. Let's just finish these last 2 steps. So in step 5, once you've read the chapter, you've typed in notes into your outline based on what you're reading in the chapter. You print off your outline and you bring it to class. Then when you're in class, you take notes about the things we talk about in lecture, that we talk about in discussions, things I draw on the board to explain ideas. You put them in the outline where they belong. So let's say, for instance, you come into class and I start talking about dealing with nerves, with public speaking anxiety, and I start telling stories, or I start drawing things on the board or making lists. Then you would put those things in your outline where it talks about public speaking anxiety. After class, your last step is to go back to your computer and type the notes in from class, and then print that finalized document. That'll have all your notes from the chapter, but also all your notes from class that are meshed up with the chapter. So now you have a complete study guide for the test. Right? And that is the last step of the reading strategy. So good luck. I hope you find it as useful as I have over the years to be able to use a strategy like this. Don't be too discouraged if it feels like a lot of work at first. You're trying to learn a new skill, a new pattern. But once you've done it a few times, you're going to start getting faster at it. And I think you're going to see better results on not just tests from my class, but if you use this strategy in other classes, you'll find that you'll be able to remember more and you'll do better on your tests.